Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, 4 nerds by nerds, hang out with these nerds.
Nathan Nerdark.
Nerdark Ted.
And it's time for another Monster BFF, and this time we're going to be using chokers and cloakers.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So in this Monster BFF, we have chokers and cloakers, and you can find cloakers in your monster manual on page 41.
You can find chokers in Tales from the Yawning Portal on page 232.
So they're both aberrations. One's large, one's small. One is relatively weak in CR. What's the CR of that choker over there?
Just one.
And we have an 8 over here with our cloaker.
Yeah, very significant difference. And we also have a very significant difference in intelligence. The chokers are only a 4.
These guys are a 13. But here's the thing: they both have a language and they share a language. So that part is not a problem. Now, all right. So we wanted to have fun with the cloaker and choker alliteration.
Not only do they both start with C and they rhyme, but they're both aberrations.
And they both grapple people.
And they do. So, like, you had some ideas how you wanted to, for using them.
Yeah.
I definitely have some ideas for how I want to use them. They can both work in 3-dimensional spaces. The cloaker has flight,
And the choker has spider climb.
and the chokers have spider climbs, and the chokers are actually really hard hitting for a small monster. They have a high armor class. They have low hit points.
Yeah, the hit points is what's lacking for them.
But they have other things that kind of make up for it. Like, you wouldn't want to put one of these against a first level party.
No.
Oh, no, because, I mean, they make, like we said, they're hard hitting and they get to do 2 attacks. And those attacks...
They can do up to 4 attacks on their first round.
Oh, that's true.
And they've got a good stealth check.
Yeah, so they have aberrant quickness, which recharges on a short or long rest, and allows them to take an extra action. So you can do multi-attack twice, basically. But I think after a certain amount of time, I mean, you figure 4 attacks, probably get 2 grapples out of the attack. So from there, people are grappled and restrained.
Right. So my idea is that I think you could put 3 chokers on a cloaker, and he could do flybys. Like,
And
that's
they would just, like, jump off and attack as...
No. They stay on. They just...
yeah, their tentacles shoot out. If they hit, they pop off, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Unless they hit 2 of them, then they stretch Armstrong it. But yeah, and then that's up to 6 people they could be choking.
Yeah, they're really aberrant because they're smalls, but they have 10-foot reach.
Yes.
That's creepy.
Well, that's always been the cool thing about the chokers is they have the tentacles and they can reach out with them.
Yeah. You used one in a game once where it was stuffed in a crevice and it latched out and attacked.
Yeah, and that's kind of like their MO, right? So my idea is the cloaker, the cloaker flyby attack, and I think like that's how they would work together in an encounter to make it fun and interesting. Now, these things are going to be more of a nuisance to a party that's like high enough level to fight a cloaker. But that first round could be brutal if they drop out of the darkness and you didn't see them. If they get the drop on them. Another thing to keep in mind too about chokers is they have this really cool thing if they hit with a natural 20. If they crit, you can't cast spells or breathe. They just wrap their tentacle around your throat. That would be devastating for a spellcaster.
Now, if you've got 3 of them, each of them is attacking 4 times, that's a pretty decent chance of getting a 20.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I almost feel like when you use their aberrant quickness, it's like, all right, you make your first attack, your second attack, and you see what happens, and decide whether you want to use the other 2 or not. I mean, now they're not going to have a high attack bonus. So now I would almost want to use these in like an aberration war. Like, if you use like the lore from Eberron where they do aberration and the plane of Zuria a little bit different than some of the other things, like they changed some of the monsters. Like the beholders were literally used as artillery, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't like your typical Dungeons and Dragons setting. So I would like to use these the same way where, all right, maybe you have a flight of cloakers, in this war, and they, a flight wing, whatever you want to call them, doesn't matter. But, they swoop down and, their payload is chokers. You know, each one has 3 chokers on it, large, small. I think that will work pretty nicely. Also, one of the things that Ted pointed out is the cloakers have a moan special ability that frightens, causes a frightened effect, and other aberrations are immune to it. So these guys are going to be able to work together really well. I also feel like even though it's a monster BFF, when we're only doing 2 monsters, I feel like there needs to be like a higher level aberrations, maybe even like the Dakos from Eberron that are actually controlling these things and kind of getting them to work together. Even though the chokers are stupid, they have a 4 intelligence. That's pretty stupid, I guess.
It's trainable.
Well, it's not that it's trainable. It has a language.
Yeah.
So, you know,
And
that elevates
it
it.
doesn't say can't speak but can understand it. It can speak it and understand it.
Yeah, so it's got a language.
I don't want to hear when they speak though with that mouth. Ugh.
Yeah, you talk to your mother with that mouth?
So, for my idea was that I impacted me greatly when Dave attacked us with something similar that had the effect the cloaker does, and that's when the cloaker is attached. Whenever you damage the cloaker, the person it's attached to takes half the damage, and the cloaker takes half the damage. So you can kill the people who try and kill the cloaker, and I really like that aspect of it. So what I was thinking was the chokers could jump off it like in the flying thing, or they could be the stuff going around looking for food. They attach to somebody, and then the cloaker is going to swoop in from safety out of the darkness in like some kind of terrible underdark place and just latch on to somebody who's already restrained. So it's going to get advantage on the attack. It's most likely going to hit with its pluses to hit. So it's going to attach on, and then you got double trouble because you're getting restrained by one thing and you're being attacked and like messed up by the cloaker.
Yeah, like I'm imagining, right? Like, you know, a flight of these things come in. We'll say a flight of them is like a half a dozen on the battlefield. You know, the first thing they do is they moan and they try and make the soldiers break. And the ones that don't break, they're now dealing with chokers that are being dropped from cloakers on them. And then, you know, the follow-up to that is the cloakers just start attaching themselves to different soldiers. I feel like, you know, especially in a war type scenario, this would be a devastating kind of like cavalry charge.
And if you're looking for a powerful, intelligent aberration to kind of lead these or to design such an encounter, you certainly couldn't go wrong if you wanted to choose an Illithid.
Well, yeah, if you go back to Eberron and the Zuriat and that war, like there was a war where the Plane of Zuriat, Plane of Madness, was basically encroaching. The generals for the Dakirs, which are basically like demon lords for the Plane of Madness, right? Well, their generals were Illithids, so that would absolutely work. I almost feel like this is like an encounter you need to play out in this like post-apocalyptic war that happens between, you know, the Plane of Madness, but, you know, in an incursion from the Plane of Madness or Chaos, like these things are pouring in, and, you know, I could see this totally being kind of dark and grim and, you know, fun in its own way.
Yeah, and Mind Flayer's got an intelligence of 19, wisdom of 17. It could certainly have the brain power to put it together, have the magical or psionic capabilities to rope these creatures into you know, servants or its own version of military.
Yeah, and if you're not going for the war backdrop, you could always do it as the Mind Flayer's lair in the Underdark. Everything's got deep speech, and the chokers are just kind of the guard dogs that run around, and the cloakers are the scouts for attacking and dealing with problems.
Or they could also be the houndsmen, the huntsmen as well,
Yeah.
kind of deal, because they're definitely intelligent enough for that, you know, and they would be able to work together with the chokers. And even if you wanted to use one of the like tactics that Ted likes to use in his game, where you're attacking with waves, you know, you have a bunch of chokers run down your players. I mean, they're still low CR, so a higher level party would be able to deal with them. They could be an annoyance, but the real annoyance is they're in the midst is all these chokers, and all of a sudden a cloaker drops in amongst them, does his moan, maybe frightening some of the PCs, attaching to a PC, and not to mention they also have this cool ability which is like superior mirror image essentially, So it could be a devastating and fun encounter.
And the thing is if you describe that, then it's like, oh, 4 of these things drop in, and this is what happens. You actually could have a little bit of tension and drama amongst the players, because it's like, wait, how many of them things am I seeing?
I've used chokers in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons twice so far, and every time I used them, the players were freaked out. And my players were way higher for this challenge, but it didn't matter. Just the way you describe them, really lends itself to...
You used like 60 of them now.
They're really creepy. Well, in the second time. The first time I only used 6.
Their average hit points are 13. You gotta if you got an evoker or somebody casting area effect spells, they're taking those things out. So you need enough that's going to survive that.
Ted killed like 40 of them in the first round.
I didn't know what they were. I'm like, holy crap, we're surrounded. Blade barrier.
Little tentacle bits. It's like octopus.
They got mowed down like crazy, but still, it was like, ah.
Yeah, like what? Almost, they don't get killed by minimum damage unless with the blade barrier.
Yeah. But at the same time, though, I think like the players were sure there was a lot of them coming. I didn't say how many, but there was a lot. But I think they were equally freaked out by just the description and how crazy those things look.
Yeah.
That's an important part, because big thing to take home with that concept and with those encounters that you guys had is that it didn't really matter how many rounds those creatures lasted. It was impactful, and Ted's talking about it, and we remember it because of description and like the way that you had the players feel about what's going on with their characters.
So what do you guys think? Are you guys going to steal this encounter for your game? We got a place for that. It's in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can check out the articles over at nerdarchy.com.
Or you can tweet at us on Twitter at Nerdarchy.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy. Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So in this Monster BFF, we have chokers and cloakers, and you can find cloakers in your monster manual on page 41.
You can find chokers in Tales from the Yawning Portal on page 232.
So they're both aberrations. One's large, one's small. One is relatively weak in CR. But these guys are a 13. But here's the thing: they both have a language and they share a language. So that part is not a problem. Now, all right. So we wanted to have fun with the cloaker and choker alliteration. Just CR that choker over there.
Just one.
And we have an 8 over here with our cloaker.
Yeah, very significant difference. And we also have a very significant difference in intelligence. The chokers are only a 4.
Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy. 4 nerds by nerds. Hang out with these nerds.
Nathan Nerdark.
Nerdarchy's Ted.
And it's time for another Monster BFF. And this time we're going to be using chokers and cloakers.